I glanced down at the check in my bag and sighed. 200,000 naira. It was a blessing I hadn't expected, but now Agu's words echoed in my head. He wants to take you away from me. I laughed it off earlier, but now I wondered if there was something more behind his warning. Could Agu have seen something I didn't? Was this mysterious man with glasses hiding something? The afternoon sun began to dip, and the market was starting to slow down. I decided to pack up early and head home. As I gathered my things, my mind kept circling back to Agu and the man with the check. What was I going to do with the money? Should I even keep it? Ogadima Greater's stepmom. Baba, I want you to deal with her for me. Turn her brain so she will be able to give me all her money and make it at the end of the market. I said, giving Greater's picture to the herbalist. Consider it done, he said as I gave him the picture of Greater. The Baba struck his iron bell and danced around his shrine, clutching pictures of the Greater. He abruptly stopped, spat on the picture 3 times, and spoke in the language of the gods. Then he turned his gaze to me. Woman, what you seek is impossible. I am not a bad Dibia. The girl you want to manipulate is innocent, with a pure heart. She has done nothing to you. You should seek peace with her, or your jealousy will lead you to your doom, he said, resuming his dance. Baba, please, just do this for me. I'm willing to pay any amount you want, I pleaded. Not everything is about money, woman. I am Okika, I cannot be bought. I stand for the truth, he replied. Do you know how much time I've wasted to come here only to be turned away? I don't blame you, I blame myself for coming to your shrine. You think you're the only Baba in the area? If you won't help me, I'll find another Baba who will I shot back, anger bubbling inside me. Be careful with your words, woman. The gods are present, don't provoke them, he warned, but I hissed and stormed out. I resolved to find another Baba who would do the jazz for me. A few days later. It was night, and I was getting ready to go home when Ngozi rushed toward me, breathless. Greater, come quickly, she gasped, leaning on her knees. What's going on? I asked, confused. It's Agu. He got into a fight and is beating the guy. No one can get close to him. If this keeps up, he might kill him, she exclaimed, panting heavily. I quickly grabbed my bag and followed Ngozi to the scene. As we raced through the middle of the main market, my heart raced with a mix of fear and urgency. We arrived at the scene. A small crowd had gathered, but everyone kept their distance. In the center, Agu loomed over a man on the ground, fists raised. The man's face was bruised and bloodied, his pleas for mercy barely audible over Agu's shouts. Agu. Stop, I shouted, pushing through the onlookers. My voice barely penetrated the chaos. He turned, his eyes wild with rage. Stay out of this, Greater. This fool dared to disrespect me. I stepped closer, trying to stay calm. This isn't you, Agu. This isn't the way. Let him go. For a moment, his expression wavered, confusion flickering in his eyes. The crowd hushed, sensing the tension. Why should I? He needs to learn a lesson, Agu yelled, shaking with anger. Beating him won't teach him anything. It'll only make things worse. Please, think about what you're doing, I urged, trying to reach the part of him that still cared. Suddenly, the man on the ground gasped, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Agu hesitated, his fists clenching and unclenching. You think an apology is enough? I took a step closer, lowering my voice. Agu, this will only lead to more violence. You're better than this. Let's talk it out instead. He looked between me and the man, the fire in his eyes dimming. After a moment, he took a deep breath and stepped back. Fine, but he better watch his mouth next time. I nodded, relief flooding through me as Agu backed away, allowing the man to scramble to his feet. The crowd exhaled collectively, the tension lifting. I could hear murmurs from the crowd. Maybe they were confused about why Agu only listened to me, but I didn't care. All I wanted was for Agu to stop fighting. I didn't like this side of him. Thank you, Greater, Ngozi said softly, stepping beside me. I watched Agu, still shaking but no longer consumed by rage. I need to go home now. See you tomorrow, Ngozi said, turning to face me. Thanks for calling my attention, I replied as she nodded. Just take care of yourself, she said, patting my back. We'll talk to him. Show him there's more to life than anger and revenge. He needs friends who can guide him back. The crowd began to disperse one by one. Let me take you home, Greater. I need to attend to something urgent afterward, Agu said, his serious expression unchanged. We walked quietly together. Once we reached the entrance of the chief's house, Agu spoke for the first time since leaving the market. Be careful with him. No matter the pressure, don't give in to his requests, he said, then turned to leave. Who are you talking about? I called after him, but he was already gone. I sigh and knock on the gate. It opens immediately. Good evening, Madam Great. How is the market today, the security guard asked. Good. How was your day? I replied with a smile. We don't push today go. Oh, chief says you should come to his room as soon as you return, he said, and I nodded, wondering what the chief wanted from me. I had also promised the guard I'd pay my weekly dues soon. I stepped nervously into the mansion, wondering what chief wanted to discuss. I made my way down the hallway and knocked softly on his door. Come in, his deep voice resonated from within. I entered, and the chief secured the door with a remote, his movements swift and deliberate. He was tying a towel around his waist, his gaze fixed intently on me. Good evening, Chief, I greeted, attempting to hide my unease. You're doing great, he replied, approaching me with an unsettling smile. I know you sent for me, I ventured, growing increasingly uncomfortable under his leering gaze, which seemed fixated on my cleavage. Yes, it's been over a week, and I haven't received any payment from you, Chief stated, his tone darkening. I know, Chief. Just give me a little more time. I'll settle the debt this week, I pleaded. Chief's expression turned cold. Unfortunately, time's up. Since I won't get my money, I'll have you tonight. He walked up to me and grabbed me by himself and started kissing me roughly on my face. I tried pushing him away from me, but his gripes were so tight on me. He dragged me to the bed and began tearing off my clothes, revealing my breast. He instantly placed his mouth on it and began sucking and biting my nip.les while he pinned me to the bed with one of his hands. I struggled to get free from his hold, but my strength was no match with his. He was sucking my breasts hungrily. Tears couldn't stop streaming down my face. Just then I had a little opportunity and I reached my hand to his exposed jibola, and then I squeezed it tightly with my hands, pinching it so hard. He winked in pain and instantly let go of me. Without thinking again, I kicked him so hard in his balls, making him fall on the bed. Using his hands to clutch his jibola, I hurriedly stood up, reached for the door remotes just beside the table and pressed the open button, and instantly the door opened up. I ran outside immediately. Come back here, Greater, he shouted. But I was long gone. I ran outside the compound. Just then I saw most of his men running towards me. I ran towards the gate, hoping to open a small part of it to escape, but the gatekeeper stopped me. Sorry, Chief instructed we shouldn't let you pass, he said, giving me a stern look that was completely different from the friendly guy I had spoken with earlier. Suddenly, Chief's men arrived and one of them smacked me hard across the cheek. I held my stinging cheek, tears rolling down my face. They grabbed me and forcefully led me back inside. I was dragged to the living room and made to kneel in front of Chief, who sat on the couch, his expression cold and unyielding. I'm sorry, Chief, I apologized, but that seems to trigger his anger. He stood up, walked to me and slapped me so hard across my face, making my lips go tie up. I fell flat to the ground. I could taste my own blood in my mouth. You think you can outsmart me, but at the same time outrun me, huh? He questioned, stepping on my back. I lied on the floor, crying silently. Now pay me my weekly due or give yourself willingly to me, he commanded. Please pardon me, I pleaded. Pardon you? Give me what I asked for, and I'll pardon you, he said, stepping more on. No matter what you do to me, I won't and will never sleep with you, I spat. He ordered his guards to flip me over to face him. which they did instantly. He stepped more on my chest. I winced in pain, spatting out blood. "You are going to regret not giving me your body," he said, and then he instructed his men to tie me up and flog me. They raised me up from the ground roughly. "One more thing. I will give you from now till tomorrow evening to pay me my money, else you won't like what I will do to you," HR threatened, as I was being dragged away. I was tied up to a pole outside and was wiped severely. I couldn't stop crying all through the night. Next day, somewhere in a hidden palace, a queen was seen lamenting and crying secretly in her chamber. For almost 6 years, she had been grieving. Her only son, the apparent heir to the throne, had gone missing on the day he returned from studying in England. He was kidnapped, and later they received a message that he had been killed and his body thrown into the ocean. "Why are you here crying? You pathetic woman, perhaps you can't bear to see my son take the throne." Another queen entered with her maids. "Please let me be, haven't you caused enough pain to me already?" The grieving queen replied, "I have not caused enough pain. I will not rest until my son takes the throne. It's a shame your son never had the chance. I wish you and your useless son would disappear. If it weren't for the king, the first would throw you out of the palace myself," she said, as the queen continued to weep. "What is wrong with you, Afanwa? Why did you keep rubbing salt in the queen's wounds?" the king demanded as he entered, and all the servants bowed respectfully. With a snap of his fingers, the king dismissed them, leaving only the 3 of them in the chamber. "I'm sorry, my king, but she is not who she seems. She's a witch hiding behind an innocent face. Why can't you see that?" Afanwa insisted, pointing at the queen mother. "May the gods strike your lips if you ever call my beloved wife a witch again. Leave her chamber this instant," the king yelled. Muttering inaudibly to herself, Afanwa exited the room. The king then sat beside the weeping queen, trying to console her. Bitterness marked their faces since the loss of their favorite son 6 years ago. Nothing had been the same for them. Akachi S. I approached Greater, despite her looking dull and moody with bruises all over her body. But I didn't care, as all I wanted was some money and she seemed like the right person to ask. "Hi, Greater," I greeted as I got closer to her. She only looked at me and walked past me as if I wasn't speaking to her. "Hello, Greater, I'm talking to you," I said, grabbing her clothes from behind to make her stop. "How dare you walk away from me when I'm not finished speaking to you," I said, but then she slapped me 4 times across my face. The force of the slap was intense, and it felt like a burning sensation on my skin. I held my cheeks in pain. "Stay away from me, or you'll regret it. It seems like you're signing your death warrant," she warned before walking away, leaving me shocked. As I walked, dejection weighed me down. I only had 700,000 naira, but Chief demanded 1,000,000 naira tonight. I know if I failed to pay, I knew he'd force himself on me. Desperate thoughts swirled in my mind. I was left with just an option, which is taking my own life. Maybe that's the best. What's the point of living anyways? I wondered. Suicide seemed like an escape. I diverted from Chief's mansion, heading towards a nearby bush. It was dusky, and that seems like the perfect time to end it all. I felt lost in thought, going deeper into the bush, neglecting the cries of the night insects. Just as I was lost in despair, a cold hand grasped my shoulder. "Do you think taking your life is the solution?" a familiar voice asked. I turned to find Agu standing beside me, holding out a brown envelope. "If you take your life, what will happen to me?" he asked, his eyes filled with concern, as he handed me the brown envelopes. I opened the envelope and, to my surprise, found some wads of new naira notes inside. "Why are you giving me the money? And what is it for?" I asked Agu, who kept a serious face. "I have been working this morning," he replied, scratching the back of his head. "What did you mean?" I asked him, but he only smirked and wouldn't answer me. "I won't take the money if you didn't tell me how you got it," I said, handing him back the envelope. "Okay, fine. I will tell you nothing but the truth. Sometimes I work in the market and get paid. I help people carry their goods from inside the market to their cars or their supposed destination, and at the end, they compensate me with money or any other items they wish to. I have been keeping the big money in this envelope for so long now, while I use the small ones to eat, he explained. I was moved by his kindness. Why did you choose to give me the money? I asked. Because I know you need it more than me, besides you've been sad all day in the market. I just want you to be happy, great, he uttered. I don't know why people are saying Agu is mad at me, he is perfect. Thanks so much, I appreciate him. He took my hands, leading me out of the bush. He kept telling me I shouldn't be so upset anymore. He took me to a nearby junction and we both got some meat and food. Passers-by were staring awkwardly at us, but I didn't care. Agu took me to a little uncompleted building beside the dump site where he stays. We ate and gisted about so many things before he took me home. I got to the chief's mansion and counted the wad of money Agu gave me. It was 500,000 altogether. I was grateful for Agu's intervention. I added another 50,000 from the money I had and rushed to the main duplex since I was staying at the boys' quarter. I got to the duplex, and the security opened the door for me. I got inside and knocked on the chief's door. Come in, his husky voice called from inside. I opened the door and walked in. I found him typing on his laptop. Good evening, sir, I greeted. He looked up from the laptop to me. I hope you have my complete money, he questioned. Yes, sir, I answered. He gestured for me to keep it on the table, which I did before leaving. Good night, sir, I said, but he didn't respond. As if I cared. I typed the unlocked digit code on the door, and the door instantly opened. Don't forget to pay this week's due. If you don't want to see the other side of me, he said. I gulped down nothing else in particular as I headed out of his room. I got to the boys' quarter and collapsed on the bed. With just one person in my thoughts, which was Agu. Thinking about him made me smile as I kept rolling from one side of the bed to the other. You mean grease slap you leaving this fingerprint on your face? Ogadima asked as she kept dabbing the warm towel on Akachi's cheek. Yes, Mama. Greater slapped me and pushed me hard to the floor, giving me sand to eat. She even called some of her market friends to come join hands in beating me, just because I went to confront her for slapping you. Akachi cried. Greater. Greater. This girl has killed me. Oh, she lamented. Mama, are we going to fold our hands and watch her keep humiliating us? Akachi questioned. No, my dear, I think I have a perfect idea, she said and whispered something to Akachi's ear. Seconds later, they both laughed crazily and high-fived. Next day. At the market, Greater was busy peeling some of her fruits. When she heard a voice, she looked up to see the same guy from the previous week that gave her a check of 200,000 naira. Ah, uncle, good afternoon. Greater greeted, standing up while dropping the orange she was peeling. Good afternoon, damsel, you're beautiful, I must confess, he said, beaming with a smile. Thanks, sir, and thank you for that day, Greater replied. Don't mention, he waved slightly. How may I be of help to you? Greater asked. Nothing much, I just wish to know you more and I will like you to be my good friend, he said. Greater was speechless, not knowing what to say. She prays he should start going already. He doesn't want AU to come meet him here. Hello, you aren't saying anything, he said, slightly snapping Greater from her thoughts. We are friends already, aren't we? Besides, you're not my enemy, I replied. I know, but I want us to be more than just a friend. Like, I really like you so much. I love the fact that you're a pretty hard-working and diligent lady. I have been observing you for the past weeks, and with each passing day I've grown to like you so much. So I will like us to be more than just friends. I think I will need a girl like you in my life, he said, leaving me stunned. Take your $1 to the low and go ask for friendship. Greater won't be your friend. Agu showed up with a serious face and faced the guy. So I would like us to be more than just friends. I think I will need a girl like you in my life, he said, leaving me stunned. Take your $1 to the low and go ask for friendship. Greater won't be your friend. Agyu showed up with a serious face and faced the guy. "Who are you to tell me what to do?" The guy fired back. "I am her best friend, and she will only listen to anything I tell her." Agyu snapped. "Friend indeed, have you ever seen a place where a mad person befriends a sane person?" he asked. "Now you have seen one, so please leave Greater alone, go and find your type of girl." Agyu roared, drawing the attention of passers-by. "Well, I don't actually have your time, I am here for her and not you. Maybe I see you're hungry, that's why you're baking like a bulldog. I don't mind giving you money anyways. I am a good Samaritan, and it's my duty to help the helpless as you." He put his hands in his pocket, bringing out money. "Here, have this, it will be able to get you a nice plate of meal, and some chill drinks that will calm down your crazy head," he said, throwing the Naira notes on Agyu. Agyu's face was hard as rock. He was vibrating vigorously. I know if I did not intervene, Agyu would end up doing something nasty. "I am sorry, sir, but Agyu here is my friend. I can't stand the sight of you humiliating him. He might be mad, but he's kind. Hurting him is like you hurting me," I uttered. "You don't have to be friends with a madman like Agyu. There are good people out there ready to be friends with you, like me. What will people think if they see you with him?" he asked. "I don't care what people say. Let them talk, only I know how much Agyu has helped me," I replied. "Well, I got you something," he said, handing me a small, fancy bag he had been carrying. As I accepted it, Agyu shot me a glare and stormed off. "Agyu, please come back," I called, but he had already vanished into the bustling market crowd. I let out a sigh. "You just have to let him go. At least he knows his place," he said. "By the way, my name is Joshua, but you can call me Josh for short." He smiled, but I only nodded in response. He waved goodbye and left the market. I felt worried and disappointed in myself for not standing up for Agyu. Later that night, I was about heading home, but I couldn't. I had waited for Agyu, but he didn't show. I knew he was still angry with me, so I decided to check on him at the uncompleted building. I hurried to the market dump site and entered the building, but Agyu was nowhere to be found. Where could he have gone? I wondered. Deciding to go home, I thought I would try to find him tomorrow. But days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Agyu was nowhere to be seen in the market anymore. As for Josh, he became my only source of support. Each time I couldn't complete Chief's money, he would always add up for me. He's been asking me to date him, but I know my heart only beats for just one person, and I will wait for him no matter how long it takes. Guy. Tonight I put on some light makeup. Josh promised to take me out on a date. Even though he insisted he meant no harm, I hoped it would be a nice way for us to hang out together. I put on one of the expensive gown he bought for me. It fits my body perfectly well, bringing out my figures and shape. I took one last glance at myself. Before heading out of the mansion, to go wait for Josh at the junction where I had promised him I would be waiting for him. I walked to the streets. Just then I felt something hit my head from behind. I instantly fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Immediately Greater fell to the ground. Some masked men carried her unconscious B0 die to the waiting van they came with, and instantly they spread off. No one noticed anything because it was dark and the streets were deserted. In a dark room, a male figure was seen tied to an armed chair,